You know, folks, this is Joe Briano, and today's April 12th, 2018. And last night, we had a really strong frontal system move through Southern California without a drop of rain. And at midnight, there was all kinds of evidence of HAARP activity or other forms of electromagnetic interaction with atmospheric aerosols, as well as the clouds that were in the sky. And today we had gale force winds out of the northwest, and at the tail end of this system that blew through here, look at the sky. Just look at this. This is absolutely insane. We had 40 and 50 mile an hour northwesterly winds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is springtime. A northwesterly wind is associated with a clearing wind after a large cold front passes through, and the type of clearing wind that we had today would be the type of clearing wind that you would get after several days of very heavy rain. So they moved this system through in a straight line yesterday and last night. You could see the grid pattern in the sky right there. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at are the footprints and the fingerprints of not only weather modification, but this technology that is being deployed, these electromagnetic emissions, can also cause earthquakes. It is no mystery that the rest of the United States is reeling from psychotic weather that is being blamed on climate change, that is being blamed on the internal combustion engines use of what they call fossil fuel. Now, I have a question for all of you, since we're on the topic of fossil fuel. I remember as a child when they had me in one of them places called a schoolroom, where they tried to make me believe a bunch of nonsense, and I had to memorize it all so the teacher would put a sticker next to my name on the wall. And eventually I had to learn more of that nonsense to get through college. But they tell us that these hydrocarbons that they pump out of the ground are the remains of animals and plants from billions of years ago. I have a question. How did some 50,000 pound, 100-foot Tyrannosaurus Rex managed to swim 28,000 feet to the bottom of the ocean and then dig himself a frickin' hole 8 miles down underneath the 30,000 foot depths of the ocean? Because that's where some of this oil is coming from, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to know what kind of superior alien technology these primitive dinosaurs had billions of years ago, that they could sea dive 30,000 feet below the sea, and then without any sophisticated equipment dig a hole 8 miles deep and crawl into the damn thing and die. Sorry I went off on a tangent there. But they're trying to blame fossil fuel combustion on the changes in the weather. Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at the changes in the weather. They're electromagnetically induced. Now, has it ever occurred to you that everything you're looking at that comes from the radar images and the satellite images is actually from the ground? And they're just aiming the radar beams at the sky? Has it ever occurred to you that that's where we're getting all of these pictures that they show us of the weather? Well, that's exactly how it's done. But did you know that when you have certain metals that are hit with radio frequencies, depending upon the frequency and the type of metals, those metals will absorb the radio frequency emissions, and the energy will transfer to those metals and they will heat up. Now, have you ever noticed how hot a fire can get when you're out in the desert having a bonfire, and how quickly things can rise, and it actually creates its own wind and its own weather system. Well, that's exactly what they can do with the weather, folks. All they've got to do is spray the right metal and use the right frequency. And they've got these Doppler radar installations all over the place. They've got these Tesla antenna farms all over the place. They've got these phased array radar systems in place. They've got these cell towers all over the place. They've got these microwave towers all over the place. You don't think they have the ability to irradiate the atmosphere from the ground? After all, they've got you believing that some piece of junk satellite the size of that outhouse right here can float around in space 100,000 miles up, and it can transmit off of a solar panel and run all kinds of sophisticated communication systems, when my cell phone doesn't even work inside the Brea Mall, for crying out loud. What a bunch of nonsense. I'm here to tell you folks that nothing is what you've been told. And there's a March for Science rally or a Shout for Science rally run by a bunch of homosexual activists and gun-grabbing, open borders Marxists this weekend at Fullerton City Hall. And they want you out of your cars and into the compact cities, folks. And you see, they don't want to deal with this stuff. They don't want to deal with the obvious, that the weather's actually being controlled. What they want you to think is that these evil cars are the problem. You know, these nice, comfortable things that take your family to Yosemite in the summertime, or the things that take you to go visit Grandma when you have to go see her, or the things that bring food into our communities from the farms that are 10,000 miles away. You know, the engines to the automobiles, and all these things that run on petroleum, like our power plants, you know, all these things that we can't live without. Well, they want to take them away from us, folks. They want us back on the plantation so they can control what we eat, drink, and think, what we eat and consume, and what medications we're forced to take, what vaccinations are jammed into our bodies. It's the Black Mirror, folks. That's the plan. It's the Hunger Games. That's the plan. It's Logan's Run. We're in Logan's Run, folks. And pretty soon they're going to close the dome in on us because they're not going to let us leave the cities. And you're going to have anything you want, but when your number's up, that's it. You're going to be finished off, just like in Logan's Run. Watch the movie. I don't think you can live past 30 in that futuristic society, but that's the plan, and they're getting everything in place with the 5G right now. All they've got to do is inject you with the nanotechnology and put the transmitters everywhere, and there's all kinds of frequency-dependent gene activation patents. Look them up. They can irradiate a certain nanobot in your body. It can turn on some genetic expression. They can start turning your organs against each other, or your immune system against the organs, and they can finish you off. They can sterilize you. They can do all kinds of stuff. Why do you think we've been importing all these 180 IQ students from around the world and putting them up tax-free, scot-free at the Taj Mahal universities, and paying for everything they need so they can go work for these think tanks and develop the weaponry? That's exactly what they've done. I know. It was nice when I was in college because I wasn't interested in going to the Hitachi building at UCI and seeing how they built a bridge over to the electrical engineering laboratory, and Hitachi was working on all kinds of mind control science back in the 80s, and we weren't allowed to go into the Hitachi building, but they were allowed to go into our electrical engineering building, and they were also going into our psychobiology building. So you see, that's how they figured out how to give you epileptic seizures with the damn Pokemon episodes, folks. Don't you remember that's what happened in Japan? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They can make your brain fry watching a cartoon, and they've already done that. They've already turned your brain into jello. Now they're just going to stick it in the Teflon pan. Look, I could go on and on, folks. But our future's not looking good if you continue to go along with all these lies. And I suggest you show up on the City Hall steps of Fullerton about 10 o'clock this Saturday morning and tell all these Looney Tunes that are marching for global warming and climate change and the end of the automobile and the end of the internal combustion engine and the end of the single-family residence and the steel-belted radials and the toasters, and tell them to go pound sand that they're crazy and that you're not going to give up your accoutrements without a fight. These people are all being organized by a Professor Mark Shapiro. He's a very foolish old man who has worked in the college his whole life, and he defends all kinds of evil agendas, like putting cell towers next to schools and parks, and putting wireless communication systems in schools, and water fluoridation and vaccination, and all these things that the government is doing, like putting in the LED lights that ruin your circadian rhythm. He defends all of these things, and he uses his credentials at State Fullerton to back up the proliferation of everything I mentioned. He actually inserts himself into all the public debates on these issues and actually shows up at the city council meeting with about 15 pens in his pocket. I don't know if he thinks a whole bunch of people are going to want his autograph or something. But at any rate, this guy needs to be called out and exposed for the sham that he is. And I'm here to tell you, folks, these people are dangerous because they're using this mantra of CO2 emissions to re-engineer our society and get us back on the plantation, to get us into these sustainable communities which are really nothing more than scientific kill grids, folks. These high-density housing arrangements are nothing more than scientific kill grids where you will have no place to grow food. That's right, folks. You won't have any land to grow anything on. You won't be able to plant any trees. You're going to be exposed to 5G microwave emissions, millimeter wave emissions, beam-forming millimeter wave emissions coming in through all the microcell antennas outside, and the new 60 gigahertz WiGig Wi-Fi routers will be plastered to the ceilings and the walls in these places where the appliances will be communicating with each other, regulating and rationing the water you use. You'll be limited to how you can travel. It's all a big hellhole, folks, where you'll be fed the GMOs, you'll be forcibly vaccinated, you'll be electrocuted with the microwave systems, the wireless systems, you'll be poisoned with the halide, fluoride, and all the disinfectant compounds in the water. Your life will be totally under their control. You'll be drugged and medicated and diagnosed, disarmed, and laid for bear, folks. That's their plan. They want everybody into the compact cities, and they're going to use this Agenda 21 climate control nonsense lie that carbon dioxide is responsible for the changes in our weather. Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at what's changing our weather, and all you have to do is look outside up in the sky. This is Joe Imbriano. Break your conditioning, ladies and gentlemen, and open your eyes. You're being had. Don't let the devil win this one. He's a loser.